So imagine having it all, I mean, everything. Wealth, power, a life without a single worry. And then you give it all up. Why? To answer one simple but incredibly deep question about what it means to be human. That's the story we're diving into today, the journey of a prince that led him to become the Buddha.
That's it. That's the question, isn't it? Why do we suffer, and is there any way to truly be free from it? You've probably asked yourself that in some way. Well, over 2,500 years ago, a prince named Siddhartha Gautama wasn't just asking. He was so driven by this question that it set him on this incredible journey, a journey that would end up shaping a huge part of our world's thinking.
Okay, section 1, a prince's troubling question. And the subtitle says it all, when having everything is not enough. You see, before he was the Buddha, which means the awakened one, he was just Siddhartha. And Siddhartha was a prince, born into the Shakya clan with, well, a silver spoon doesn't even begin to cover it. His father literally built a palace to shield him from any hint of sadness, hoping to steer him towards becoming a great king, not, a spiritual thinker.
But, of course, you can't live in a bubble forever. Siddhartha eventually ventured outside the palace walls, and what he saw, what we now call the four sights, it just completely rocked his world. Picture it. For the first time in his life, he sees an old man, frail and bent. Then a man writhing in sickness. And finally, a dead body. This shattered his whole reality. But then came the fourth sight, a wandering holy man, an ascetic, who had nothing but looked completely at peace. And that's what sparked the crucial thought. Wait a minute. Maybe there's a way out of all this suffering. And this led him to a huge realization. He saw that all of life, even his own super privileged life, had this undercurrent of, well, unsatisfactoriness. The Pali word for it is dukkha, and it's a tricky one to translate. It's not just big, dramatic suffering. It's that low-level hum of anxiety, the feeling that something's not quite right. You know that feeling when you get the new phone or the promotion and you're happy for a week, and then it's just normal again? That's dukkha. It's the stress of knowing everything changes and nothing lasts. And for Siddhartha, this wasn't just a mood. It was the problem he absolutely had to solve. All right, next up, the great renunciation, the search for an answer beyond the palace walls. So, picture this. He's 29 years old, he's completely obsessed with this problem of dukkha, and he makes a decision that is, well, it's pretty hard for most of us to even wrap our heads around. He decided to walk away from it all. Everything, to find an end to suffering once and for all. And I mean, he left everything behind. His wife, his newborn son, his future kingdom. He literally cut off his hair, swapped his fancy royal clothes for a simple monk's robe, and just walked out. This wasn't just a gap year, It was a complete and total rejection of his entire identity, all his responsibilities, everything he was supposed to be. He headed straight for the wilderness, looking for an answer that all the riches in the world couldn't buy.
So for the next 6 years, he basically tried everything. He tested out the two extreme lifestyles he knew. On one hand, you have the path of total indulgence, all the sensual pleasures of the palace. He'd already done that, and he knew it just made you want more and more. It didn't work. So he swung to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, a life of extreme self-denial in the forest. We're talking severe fasting, holding his breath until he passed out. He got so thin you could practically see his spine through his stomach. He pushed his body to the absolute brink.
As he put it himself, I lived a very spoiled life, but this had not helped me attain nirvana. And you know what? All that self-punishment didn't work either. It just nearly killed him. And this led to a massive breakthrough. He realized that neither path was the answer. It's like trying to tune a guitar string. If it's too loose, that's indulgence, it won't play. If it's too tight, that's extreme self-denial, it snaps. Neither one gets you to the music. So let's move on. Section 3, Awakening Under the Tree. This is where he discovers the middle way. Okay, so having turned his back on both of those extremes, he accepted a simple meal of rice pudding from a village girl, which probably saved his life. He regained his strength, found a large peepal tree, what we now call a Bodhi tree, and sat down. And he made this incredible promise to himself. I will not get up from this spot until I have the answer. And right there, under that tree, after a night of super deep meditation, he did it. He had a complete breakthrough. He finally saw with perfect clarity how reality works, what really causes suffering, and, most importantly, how to end it. And in that moment, the Prince Siddhartha was gone. What emerged was the Buddha. And remember, that's not his name, it's a title. It just means the one who woke up. The state he reached is called nirvana. And it's really important to get this right. It's not a place, it's not like heaven. It's a state of mind. The word literally means to extinguish or to blow out, like blowing out a candle. So what's being blown out? The three fires that keep us suffering: the fire of desire and greed, the fire of anger and hatred, and the fire of ignorance. When those are gone, what's left is total freedom. So let's get into what he actually figured out, the middle way solution. It's described as a practical diagnosis and prescription for the human condition, which I think is a perfect way to put it. Because what he discovered wasn't some kind of divine revelation from a god, it was a practical path that anyone could see for themselves. And he laid it all out super clearly in his very first teaching. And here it is, the Four Noble Truths. This is the absolute core of his teaching, and it works just like a visit to the doctor, seriously. Number 1, the diagnosis. Life involves suffering, or dukkha, that feeling of unsatisfactoriness we talked about. Number 2, the cause of the illness. It comes from our craving, our attachments, and our basic misunderstanding of how things are. 3, the prognosis. Good news, there's a cure. An end to suffering is totally possible, and that state is nirvana. And finally, number 4, the prescription. Here's how you get there. It's called the Eightfold Path. So this is the actual medicine, the prescription, the Noble Eightfold Path. You can see it's broken down into 3 parts: wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The key thing to get here is that it's not like a to-do list where you check off number 1, then move to number 2. It's more like 8 parts of a wheel, all working together at the same time. It's a complete guide for how to think, speak, act, and train your mind. It's the whole package. Now, one of the most mind-bending parts of this whole path is a concept called anatta, or no self. This is a huge one. The Buddha said that if you really, really look inside, you won't find a permanent, unchanging you or a soul. What we think of as ourself is actually just a constantly shifting bundle of thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. It's more like a river than a statue. And why does this matter? Well, think about it. If there's no fixed, permanent me to protect and please, who is all the selfish craving for? It pulls the rug right out from under our ego. Okay, final section. The Buddha's lasting legacy, from a personal awakening to a world philosophy. Now, think about this. After he reached nirvana, the Buddha could have just stayed there, enjoyed his blissful, peaceful state for the rest of his life. But he didn't. Out of a deep sense of compassion, he decided he had to teach others what he'd found. For 45 years. Just let that sink in. For nearly half a century, he walked all over the Gangetic Plain in India teaching. And he taught everyone. It didn't matter if you were a king or a servant, a wealthy merchant, or someone from the lowest caste. He believed this path was for anyone and everyone who was willing to walk it. And he was smart about it. To make sure his teachings, which are called the Dharma, wouldn't just disappear after he was gone, he set up the Sangha. This was basically a community, an order of monks and nuns whose job it was to practice the teachings and pass them on. And he told them something really important. When I'm gone, don't look for a new leader. Let the Dharma, the teaching itself, be your guide. He lived to be about 80 years old. And his very last words, which you see here, are so telling. All sankharas decay, strive for the goal with diligence. It wasn't some cryptic prophecy. It was a final practical piece of advice. He was basically saying, listen, everything falls apart. Everything is impermanent. So it's up to you. You have to put in the work to free yourself. Be diligent. So how does a 2,500-year-old answer to suffering really hold up today? I mean, the Buddha's whole journey started with a question. And the answer he found wasn't about believing in a god or accepting a dogma. It was about looking directly at your own experience and training your own mind. Which leaves us with a pretty big question for our own lives, right? In a world that's practically designed to keep us distracted, what can we take away from a path that's all about waking up?